Cbeebies Bedtime Story.
Hello, I'm Matt. Would you like to hear a story? Tonight's bedtime story is all about a little mountain goat who doesn't like heights. I don't like heights either. It's called Giddy Goat, and it's written by Jamie Ricks and illustrated by Lynne Chapman. In a land above the clouds, perched between heaven and earth, on top of a bare and rocky mountain, lived a family of goats. These were no ordinary goats. These were rock-climbing goats with hooves that clung to cliffs like sticky socks. They were acrobatic goats that could leap plunging ravines while the toy town world buzzed below. These goats knew no fear, except one. Giddy Goat was the youngest of the kids, and he had no head for heights. Stand him on a ledge and his knees would turn to jelly. "Make the spinning stop," he would cry, clinging to the rock face. Giddy Goat didn't feel like a mountain goat at all. One day, the family took a picnic right to the top of the Needle. Giddy was so terrified he could hardly move a muscle. "Come on, Giddy," pleaded the other kids. "We haven't got enough players for rock rounders." "Then play something else," quivered Giddy. While the other kids played catch tag, Giddy pointed to the lush green meadows below, where the sheep grazed. "I want to live down there," he trembled, his tummy tumbling like a butter churn. "With the muttons?" said Pa Billy. "Never! You're a goat, Giddy." "Muttons can't even climb molehills," said his mother. But that night Giddy Goat ran away from home. He strapped himself to a tea tray and tobogganed down the mountain with his eyes tightly shut. In the morning, when he opened them again, he was upside down in a low-lying meadow where the woolly wimps grazed. "I've come to be a sheep," Giddy said to a wrinkled ram called Ramillies. The old ram stared at Giddy with eyes as cold as marbles. "You're a smelly goat," he said. "We're far too good for the likes of you. Sheep and goats don't mix," said the old ram. "Go home, goat." Poor Giddy crept away from the flock and cried. How could he go home when home was 20,000 feet off the ground and he was scared of heights? Suddenly he heard a noise. It was a faint, faraway bleating that whispered through the clouds. It was the sound of a newborn lamb, lost on the mountain. Giddy knew how frightened that lamb would be. He knew it would fall unless rescued. He also knew that only he could help. Giddy had to find the fearless goat inside himself. He tiptoed up to the mountain and placed a hoof on the steep path. Stones crumbled underfoot, but it was now or never. With one fearless bound, Giddy sprang onto the rock face. He bounced from boulder to boulder and flew over ravines like a great bearded bird. Giddy was climbing. He found the lamb trapped on a narrow ledge. "Hello," he said. "I'm Giddy." "So am I," trembled the lamb, who was called Edmund. No. Giddy's my name," chuckled the goat. "What are you doing up here?" The lamb looked sheepish. "I want to be a rock climber," he said. "Really?" said Giddy. "Follow me." Giddy started to climb. "Do exactly what I do." In no time at all, Edmund was skittering up and down the mountain like a full-time goat. Giddy's brothers and sisters couldn't believe their eyes. "You climbed the Needle," they gasped. "Me and Edmund," said Giddy. "But he's a weedy mutton," said his kid sister. "Is he?" said Giddy. It didn't take Edmund long to prove that he had a knack for climbing. And with 2 extra players, they finally played that game of rock rounders. They had so much fun that they didn't notice that the sun was going down until Edmund heard his mother calling. Edmund was so tired that Giddy lifted him onto his back and carried him home. skipping down the mountain as sure-footedly as any mountain goat had ever done before. The sheep gave Giddy a hero's welcome for rescuing Edmund. Ramillies said that now Giddy could live with them in the valley. "You're very kind," said Giddy, "but I think it's time I went home, don't you?" "Giddy, will I ever see you again?" said Edmund. "Of course," said Giddy. "I'll see you in the morning." So every day, as the sun spread its fiery fingers across the valley, Edmund and Giddy met halfway up and halfway down the mountain to play games. Some nights they would sleep over. "Giddy," said Edmund one night, "now that both of us can live in the valley and climb mountains, are we sheep or goats?" "Neither," whispered Giddy. "You and I are special, Edmund. We're friends." And with smiles on their faces, they both fell asleep. I love how meeting Edmund gave Giddy the courage to try new things. Your friends really can bring out the best in you. Looks like our goat and sheep friends are also ready to go to sleep. Should we tuck them in? There you are. It's also time for you to tuck yourselves in, ready for bed. I'll see you soon for another bedtime story. Sleep well.